Welcome, everybody. My name is Ryan, and this is Hytale. I'm officially recording this review on the day after launch. I just finished my second live stream of the game, and I've been putting in the hours, so I think I'm ready to give you guys my first impressions, tell you what I think the game does right, what it does wrong, and just my overall review of it. Now, if you don't want to sit around for the whole video, I'll go ahead and say it's a thumbs up from me. Go ahead and pick it up. If you're watching this, that means you probably like block-based games and you're wondering about it, you're on the fence, just go ahead and get it. I'll have a link to the website down in the description so you can check out the various prices or maybe just follow along with development if you still do want to wait a while. Of course, this is an early access review, so many of the things will change in the game as time goes by, and there is mod capability for the game too, so some of the things that we address in the video might get, fixed with mods or changed with mods, but I am, no matter what, really looking forward to the development of this game. But with that said, let's get into the video. So, for my pros and cons list, first we'll start with the positives, the things I like about the game, and then we'll get into the cons, which there aren't very many, and again, a lot of them could be addressed with mods or future updates. I want to stress we're in early access still, but I feel it's important to give you guys my impression of the game. So, the first thing everybody notices is the graphics. What does the game look like when you first boot it up? And I can tell you without hesitation that Hytale looks amazing. Everything from the world itself, the biomes that you'll encounter, to the creepy crawlies underground, and to the wonderful wildlife above too. They look like the artists have really put in a lot of time and care to make these things expressive. They even sort of react to the player when you're around them. It is a lot of fun to discover the many different creatures and entities that inhabit the world of Hytale. So for me, the graphics right out of the gate are so impressive. I would even go with a 9 of 10. I'm hesitant to do 10 of 10, especially in early access, but yeah, I think the look of the game is one of its strongest points, but it does have other strong points too, so let's talk about those as well. Now, the UI is actually pretty great right out of the gate. I mean, that's one of the things you'll see a lot of developers kind of set aside for later updates, but not in Hytale. I mean, there's a little bit of, some room for improvement, certainly, like with the chest. There are stack off buttons, which are super helpful, but maybe you could be able to bind those to hotkeys, for instance. That would be helpful. But one of the things I've actually really fallen in love with, and I could tell it's going to be difficult for me to play without in the future, is the offhand control. So just like Minecraft or Vintage Story, you can put torches in your offhand and carry your sword or whatever tools you have in your main hand. But with this game, there's a whole system around the V button. So you hold down V, it brings up the circular dial, and you can rapidly switch between your shield, your torches, or any other light sources you might be able to carry in your offhand. And I think the functionality of it is so simplistic. Once you've figured out how it works, it is really quick and easy to switch between torches for exploration to your shield for combat, and then right back. So again, the UI elements, there's a little tweaking here and there, certainly, but right out of the gate for an early access game, I'm very impressed. I'm going to say 7 out of 10 for the UI. Now, the next thing on my list of pros for the game is the combat. That's right. I think a lot of people probably noticed the combat is a big part of this game in the little teaser videos that we got from Hypixel Studio in the lead up to the release. But I will tell you that there is some depth here. Each weapon has its own special ability that you can charge up and then use to attack, and they're all great. Of course, you've got swords, daggers, battle axes. I think there's even some maces in the game, and who knows what else. Now, of course, this is all just what is launched with the game. There might even be further, weapon expansions. Not sure about that, but just in terms of the combat itself, it's responsive. It feels good. Some of the enemies might be a little squishy. There's certainly some balancing issues. Your stamina doesn't really feel like it comes into play too much in combat. When you block, you will lose stamina, so if you're taking multiple hits, hits from multiple enemies, then you might have to worry about your stamina bar. But other than that, you can pretty much just chew through most guys by constant attacking over and over again. But, as you progress, I'm sure it's going to get more difficult. You're going to have to, perform some strategy and tactics. There is blocking, of course, with shields in the game. You can do a little slide, but I don't know just how great that would be for combat. And it does show that there's a roll in the controls, but I haven't quite figured out how to do the combat roll yet. So anybody else out there who has, please let me know down in the comments. But the addition of certain, parries or rolls, as I mentioned, could really help the combat even further. And of course, more difficult enemies and challenges always make combat something worth focusing on and just trying to flesh out more and more. And of course, with mods, who knows what we're going to get, more bosses, adventure mode, hopefully that's on the way too. And of course, I feel like combat is going to be a big part of adventure mode. Now, for the next pro, we're going to talk about the immersion. What does the world, does it really suck you into it? Or are you just like, oh, this is great, not that immersive. But I think that overall, the immersion of the game is pretty darn good. And one of the biggest things that lends to that aspect is the sound design. You'll hear the creatures, you'll hear hoot owls at night, the sound of the wind, the water. It's all there, and it really does kind of put you into the world too. And of course, the creatures themselves all have interesting noises and stuff. Some of the funniest ones I've heard definitely come from the camel you'll see in the desert biome. But either way, the sound design and the immersion factor is definitely there. I'd say 6 out of 10 easily, maybe higher, maybe lower. That's a very, sort of subjective kind of thing, but either way, I definitely got into it as I was playing. Now, another big pro is going to be the mod support for the game. We don't have any mods as of the recording of this video, at least, but I'm sure they're in the works, and I am really excited to see just what the community can come up with for this game. Mods is one of those things with the game that will just help to extend the lifetime of any video game where the developers are encouraging modding. So I'm really excited about that aspect of Hytale. And we've also got the pro that the game runs pretty smoothly. Now, I do have a newer PC, but I've been told that most folks out there who've been booting it up have a good experience with just the way that the game runs on their system. It is also compatible with Linux too, so through the support of Flatpak. That's of course something that some of my Patreons have told me. I don't personally use Linux, but I know I've got some friends who are Linux users and they've been able to play the game, so that's always a positive. And I would say that one of the last things on my list for pros is just the sheer variety in the game. You're going to have tons of different options for building blocks, which in a game like this is obviously very important, but also you'll see there's an immense variety of critters to run around. There's even like a bestiary that you've got to fill out. I don't want to spoil too much. This is just a review, but yeah, you'll see that the sheer variety of flora, fauna, and the different building blocks in the world for an early access game right out of the gate, pretty impressive. I'm definitely liking some of the building materials, and I can't wait to see what kinds of things the community can come up with, the creative builds and whatnot. But that's going to do it for my pros list. So let's move on to the cons. But again, just a warning, this is early access. A lot of these cons I'm going to mention subjective, and maybe they'll be addressed in future updates or with mods. But I still feel like I should give you, an idea of some of the negatives or some of the not so great things that I found about Hytale. All right, here we go. This is the cons list, but don't worry, it's not too long, and they're all very minor issues. But one thing that I noticed, we talked about graphics and just how great everything looks, how cute the creatures are, but one thing when I looked up in the sky at night was I thought the moon just kind of looked a little off. It looks a little too perfect, a little too circular. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but let me know what you guys thought of the moon and the skybox itself. Overall, looks pretty good. It's just that is something that kind of jumped out at me a little bit. But also I noticed that there's no mini map for the game. There's more of a compass, but that's just the design choice and something that could easily be modded back into the game. So I hope one day we will see the option for a mini map maybe, or like I say, a mod which will add a mini map. It's just something you get used to kind of playing in certain games, and going from one game with the mini map to one without can be a little jarring. But also another con is it's not on Steam. Unfortunately, any people out there who are exclusive Steam users, you won't be able to play Hytale right away, but of course you can pick it up on the website. It's perfectly safe, the developer's own website, but Steam release is not yet out, and maybe in the future we will see that put on Steam. I think they have plans on that, but I don't know 100%, although it is something I felt I should mention because I know that there are people out there who won't even bother with the game unless it is on Steam, so felt I should mention it. Now, another thing I think I should mention, because I've heard this comment from a few people in my chat during live streams, was the game is beautiful, but it's a little bit oversaturated. The coloration is a little bit bright. The water is very bright blue. But again, that's a personal preference thing. And maybe if you tweak some of the settings or even your monitor, you might have a better time with it. But overall, it does have a very bright and colorful look to it. There's no doubt about that. But I also mentioned that stamina isn't the greatest during my combat phase when I talked about that during the pros. That is something I would definitely put on the cons list too, as stamina feels a little unbalanced, but overall the combat is so great in the game. It feels good. It's just like that one little aspect of it. It feels like it's kind of been just left off, but maybe we will see stamina become more of a resource sort of that you have to manage in combat itself. Either way, as I mentioned, when you block some of the more powerful enemies, you will lose stamina, so maybe in these tougher fights, it is more of a factor. That's something to consider. But moving on, there could be a bigger variety of map markers for sure. The fact that we can place markers is really important, but there's only one kind, and I don't even think you can label them, so it would be great to just have more variety. But again, maybe that's something that a mod could be, easily made for, whipped up, I'm not sure. But again, just another slight thing right out of the gate that I noticed, so felt I'd mention it. And lastly, for our cons list, I think that the survival focus of the game is pretty lackluster. Now, obviously, there's more focus on the action and adventure and exploration in this game versus a game like Vintage Story, which is a block-based game, but much more focused on the challenging survival. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that there isn't much of a survival, but you might notice if you go into this world thinking, oh, I'm going to do some farming and animal husbandry, it's not really that important. Food is a non-issue. You're just going to use it to heal yourself a little bit. There is no food or water bars or anything like that. So it's definitely not a survival-focused game. There are small elements of it. Like I said, you can actually farm, but you're really farming more for what they call essences than you are for the food itself. But either way, as somebody who does really enjoy the survival aspects of these kind of games, it's something that I noticed just wasn't there, but maybe that's just not their intention, or again, maybe we'll see some more survival focused stuff in the upcoming adventure mode. Who knows? That's one of the great things about these new releases and these early access games. We get to wait and just find out what the developers are going to bring to us. And with the developers being mentioned, I think that we should give a big shout out to Hypixel for picking up this game, which so many people had hopes for over the years, but was really just let down by the old publishers. So big shout out. Thank you, Hypixel, for making this game and delivering it to us. Even in its current stage, I really enjoy it. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I definitely recommend it. The link to the website is down below, so go check it out, pick it up if you can, play it. Let me know in the comments what you think of it. Do you agree or disagree with any of my points? And thank you for watching, everybody. I will see you all on the next one.